Hi, this is Dad here. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I'm going to do a video on what I call the narcissist souring, and that description will make sense, once I have a chance to describe what I'm referring to. During the relationship with a narcissist, you have various stages of the relationship with your initial meeting, I would say vetting, love bombing, the peak, which is the turning point, the devalue, the emotional discard, and then the physical discard, which is usually or can be done by one or the other people in the relationship. So one of the things that had popped into my head, I was like going through some photos, just happened to have, photos of my ex when we'd gone camping or something. And, I wasn't looking for them. I stumbled upon them as I was looking for other photos. But anyways, I was thinking about like how awful those experiences were, and what a sharp contrast they were to the, say, first half of the relationship. And I realized that during, at least for me, during the devalue phase, there's the initial half, let's say, where things are still above the 50% line. So it's like, the majority of the relationship is working out, the majority of your needs and wants are being met, etc. And then once it passes below 50%, then the relationship is just, by definition bad, maybe even toxic, unpleasant, and then continues to get worse. And that may or may not coincide with the emotional discard. There might be situations where the relationship is going bad and it's not fun, it's not fulfilling, but you are still connecting at an emotional level with the narcissist. So what I'm going to describe may not, kind of hinge on the emotional discard, but definitely not only during the devalue phase, but I would say during the second half of the devalue phase. And okay, now let me get to the point. Is that I realized that I would have these negative interactions with my partner at the time, and that's easily understood, and again part of the natural devalue phase. But the key point here is that the narcissist stopped enjoying things outside of interactions with me. So for instance, we might go to a Comic-Con, and in past in previous years, whether or not she was with me or interacting with me, she would have a blast and have a lot of fun. But the last year that we went to Comic-Con, she was just in a rotten mood the entire time, and just perpetually complaining about everything. I mean, she would just, we would just show up and she would find, she'd say the line was too long, or she didn't like the layout of the talks in the convention rooms, or she didn't like where they were serving food, or the choices of food, in the food court, the lines for autographs, how crowded it was. I mean, I could, where the bathrooms were. I could go on and on. Just everything was just, something to complain about. And, if it was just that one time, it would be easy to brush it off and just be like, oh, well, she was in a bad mood or something like that. But looking back, I realized that was the new normal for her during that entire period. And so, whereas before, she would just be overjoyed to go camping and just, enjoying the drive, enjoying, the sights, enjoying, sleeping in a tent and like, having, breakfast over, fire. That, as, we went into the second half of the relationship, she didn't enjoy camping really anymore. And that, as I had mentioned in some earlier videos, there were many times when we would say make plans to go camping, and then a couple of days beforehand, she would just find an excuse to get out. And, that was symptomatic of what was going on. And then the half of the time that she didn't back out and we did go, she might complain and say that there wasn't enough wildlife, or, and when we would cook a meal, she would say, "Oh, I should have brought this and I should have brought that," and just the campsite location, just everything stunk in her opinion. And again, in retrospect, I see now that she was just incredibly unhappy, and it wasn't simply, unhappy with me or, our relationship or anything like that. She was just an unhappy person, and everything just kind of was dead and stunk. It's so weird. It's just like, at the beginning of this, she would be disgusted with things and complain and, share her thoughts and feelings about stuff. But as time went on, even that lessened to where, as I described before, she became a mannequin. And again, it wasn't just simply interactions with me. It was just, she was just kind of dead to the world and not enjoying anything. And at that point, it's almost like she didn't even have the energy to complain about stuff. She just stopped making any effort at all to do anything. And so, the first word that came to mind was sour. She was just in a sour mood for like the duration of 9 to 12 months at the end of the relationship, where just everything stunk. She was not excited about anything. There was no real, hope or, plans for the future or anything like that. And so, yeah, I know that people have, many, written many articles or made videos about how the narcissist's, internal experience of life is just misery, just, every day, and that they pretend that they're happy and achieving goals and, having high status, lives. But, I think that that's, true half the time, maybe. I think that there is also a case where people have described, it's besides simply myself, where the narcissist is just miserable. And that's the thing. This is where it becomes, at least for me, kind of, catches my eye, is that this is their false self that is showing this misery, lack of energy, being lethargic, uninterested in anything. And, just kind of not enjoying life and just kind of going through the motions. And I know for my covert narcissist ex-girlfriend that I would bet the house that at least for her perspective, that flipped as soon as she was able to go and start the love bombing phase of her next target. And that's the thing, is like, hindsight is 50-50, as I like to say. But in hindsight, I see now that when she was in her previous relationship before me, that what she describes is that same just abject misery, and not just being miserable with her partner and that relationship, but just being miserable with life and trying to find new friends and start dating and having a new social life, and kind of just building this new life. And at that time, she was still in the tail end of the relationship with her previous boyfriend. And then, she was in this, not great state, and then, started dating and stuff. And then ultimately, we started our relationship. I mean, and that's kind of the weird, ironic thing, thinking about the relationship with the narcissist, is that, at one point I was the other guy, and that I was her, happy future of possibilities, and going camping and dancing and clubbing and exploring and going on adventures and stuff. Whereas before, she was in a miserable, dead relationship, being, most likely just being the mannequin, but with her previous boyfriend. And so again, to the current, state now, I'd still, bet the house that, as soon as she was able to start love bombing and getting into the next phase, that all of a sudden she felt like she could enjoy life again. And it's such a weird realization that as much as the narcissist likes to pretend that they are this island in the sea, this rock, this deep, mountain that is immovable and, reaches up into the clouds, that's not the reality at all. And that they kind of sway back and forth like a very, like a tree being blown in a hurricane. And that at the end of at the end of the relationship, that tree's practically, about to break, because they are just unable to enjoy life. It's not simply about the narcissist and the target. It's affecting the narcissist to the point that they are just going through the motions, as far as like, to be blunt, making it day by day and staying alive. That was kind of as bad as at least for me, the narcissist got at the end there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to think about the narcissist souring at the end of the relationship, and that it's not simply the interaction and dynamics between the narcissist and the target, that the narcissist themselves becomes nasty and sour, and not just towards their target, but with everything in their life. So please comment below if you've had experiences like that yourself with your narcissist. I'd be curious to hear those. And hopefully this video has been helpful.